Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the RacingBet preview, previewing all the action on Saturday, 20th of March, a huge day of racing across Australia. Fingers crossed it all goes ahead because there's some pretty soggy conditions, especially up in Sydney. Of course, it's Golden Slipper Day at Rosehill, featuring 5 Group 1s on the card. The Ranvet Stakes, the Rosehill Guineas, the Ryder Stakes, the Golden Slipper, and of course, the Galaxy. Before that, on Friday night, we've got Reid Stakes night at Moonee Valley to take us into the weekend. And over in Melbourne on Saturday, things are headlined by the Mornington Cup card at Mornington. I'm your host, Tim Geers, joined by Trent Crebbin. This week's presenting sponsor is WinnersBet, Australian owned and operated. Get on to winnersbet.com.au ahead of this weekend's action because it's set to be a huge day. Trent, you looking forward to this weekend?
Yeah, hopefully, we can actually get to the racing in Sydney and it goes ahead with all this rain predicted. One of the biggest days on the calendar, and hopefully we can get through it.
Well, there's only about 5 inches of rain predicted on Saturday alone, let alone on Friday leading up to Saturday. But fingers crossed it kind of dodges Rosehill because it's one of the biggest race days of the year, really. As I said, 5 Group 1s on the card, Golden Slipper Day. Race days don't come much bigger than that. So let's hope some of the rain avoids Rosehill and we get through Saturday's meeting. It'd be very frustrating to do all the form and then have the meeting called off. But look, we'll plan as if it's going ahead and we'll try and find some winners for all of the feature races. We're going to basically shoot through all 6 Group 1s this weekend. We're going to get Trent's best bets for Moonee Valley and Mornington. And I'll also put out my best bet for Rosehill on Saturday. We're going to try and do all that in about the space of 20 minutes if we can. So Trent, without further ado, we'll kick off with Moonee Valley on Friday night. As I said, the card's headlined by the Group 1 Reid Stakes. We'll start with your best bet, which comes before that race. It's race number 6, horse number 6, In Good Health, currently around $6. Juicy little price.
Yeah, I thought she was one of the better bets of the night, especially at the price there. Ran first up at Flemington over 1,400 metres, playing Shaylo. I thought she ran really well there, was beaten about 3.5 lengths. Didn't have a lot of luck in the straight there. Probably should have finished quite a lot closer than the margin there would suggest. Last prep, she really came of age. She strung a few races together, won some good races. And I think second up here, she has a real opportunity to own the race. She can probably go forward and she can lead this if she wants to. And I think just from there, she's going to be really hard to run down. The camp are really airborne at the moment. Like I said, that first up one was really good. And I think she's going to be right there up on speed. And these back markers might have it all to do.
Okay, and then following that, we've got, of course, the night's feature, the Reid Stakes. Take us through your thoughts there. You're keen on 2 horses. Horse number 8, Libertini, currently around $4.60. And one at big odds, one of the Westie's best horses, horse number 4, Indian Pacific, currently around $27.
Yeah, I definitely think Libertini's the horse to beat. Good placement by the Cummings camp to bring her down here instead of race on the bog in Sydney. It just depends on how far she's going to get back from the map, but we know how good of a sprinter she is, especially fresh and on good tracks. We saw last prep she beat Classic Legend by 2 lengths. So she comes here again fresh at 1,200 meters, draws barrier 13, so she is going to be getting a long way back. They will fly along in this. It's just whether she can stay in touch with them, and I think she's clearly the best sprinter on her day in this field. And if she can kind of get to the outside and isn't too far off them, she'll be really closing off late. So she's the one I want to have on top. Number 4, Indian Pacific, I think is the best of the on paces there, especially at $27. Can't really work out why it's such a big price. Both runs in Melbourne have been excellent, just missing behind Fabergino down the straight. And then last start in the Newmarket was only 0.2 lengths off Zatori. He comes here, he's going to go back around a bend, which I think is probably a good thing for him. Draws wide, but he's just going to come across and really pour the pressure on to Pippi out wide. And I just can't see why he's $27 for a horse that's run so well at his last 2 starts in Melbourne. So I thought he was a good value chance as well, and happy to have something on him.
Okay, so there you have it, Trent's thoughts on the Group 1 Reid Stakes. Hopefully one of Libertini or Indian Pacific can get across the line for us on Friday night. We'll move on to the big day of racing on Saturday. Of course, Golden Slipper Day, as I mentioned, in Sydney. 5 Group 1s on the card and the Mornington Cup card in Melbourne. Trent, where do you want to start? You want to dig into these Group 1s or do you want to take us through Mornington first?
I'll quickly do Mornington, then we'll smash out Rosehill after that. So Mornington, my best bet comes up in one of the features of the day, race 8, the Reid Stakes. I'm with horse number 1, Ancestry, currently around $2.80, although you might cop a couple of deductions with a couple of these horses nominated at the Valley. Look, he failed first up in the Oakley Plate. and really bounced back to form on All-Star Mile Day, where he was able to control a race and did it really easily, winning by about 2.5, but eased down there. I just think he goes straight to the front here from barrier 1. I kind of prefer this as a winning option over the William Reid. Nothing I don't think can go with him early here. And barrier 1, he's just going to find the rail, which can be quite advantageous around the tight Mornington track. And I just think he's going to be too good again here on the backup.
Beautiful stuff. I agree with you there. Let's hope he can win on Saturday at Mornington. Okay, Rosehill Gardens time. Golden Slipper Day. The first of the Group 1s is the Ranvet Stakes, and we see round 3 of Adabe versus Very Elegant. Currently $1.90 and $2.20 respectively. I found it difficult to separate these two, but at the end of the day, it's 2-0 to Adabe, and I see no reason why he can't make it 3-0 against Very Elegant here. Of course, these two met for the first time in last year's Ranvet Stakes, the same time last year, where Adabe got the upper hand by half a length. He then went on to win the Queen Elizabeth Stakes when they met again. He's undefeated, 2 out of 2 on heavy ground. The only thing that kind of swayed me towards Very Elegant was her outstanding third up record. She's got 4 wins from her 5 starts when third up from a spell, but they also met when she was third up last preparation, I think, and he managed to get the upper hand on that occasion. So, yeah, just the wetter, I suppose, Very Elegant's no hack on the wet ground. We know she's super on wet ground, but I just think the wetter, the better for Adabe. He looks to be tuned up for this, and I think he'll be awfully hard to beat. With the market, it's, obviously they're very hard to separate, $1.90 and $2.20. I can't say it'll be a huge betting race either way, but I do have Adabe on top. Give me your selection, Adabe or Very Elegant?
Very Elegant. I think she's improved a little bit, and I think she can make it into a bit more test. And I think Adabe's potentially look to him to turn the tables in the Queen Elizabeth. I think she can just expose his fitness maybe just a little bit, but very tough.
Okay, interesting. Good to see him back over here in any case, especially after the news that Russian Camelot is retired to stud today. Unfortunately, there goes one of our big guns in Australia. So good to at least see some quality horse flesh from Europe making their way over for the Sydney Autumn. Move on to the Rosehill Guineas, and one of the sickest beats you'll find this year was Moonga in the Ranvet Guineas last start. Oh, geez, he should have won by about 3 with any luck at all. Is $2.70 a good price here?
Yeah, I think so. I think he should be shorter. The only thing that probably beats him again here is barrier 2, kind of the same barrier as last start, and unless he really hated the wet, but from what I've seen, I don't think he will. So I think he's pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, well, he's 1 from 1 on heavy ground, if I am correct. And I think probably barrier 2 over 2,000 metres, he might just be a little bit better suited than barrier 2 over the mile. We may see him stretch out a little bit more. We may see horses get tired on the track at that point. So fingers crossed we get a little bit more luck than last start and he can atone for that defeat in the Ranvet Guineas. I think he's one of the best bets on the day. Obviously, it's a very hard card overall and conditions are going to be, just about impossible. But yeah, I thought $2.70 was more than fair. I thought he was one of the best bets on the card. Lions Roar, of course, he was the winner of the Ranvet Guineas. He's going to be hard to beat again. He's still got improvement to come, only being lightly raced. And I did think the $9 about Wheelhouse was decent value. He sat 3 wide the trip in that Ranvet Guineas and ran 4th or maybe 5th. He was pretty close up. I thought it was a very good effort. And I think I made mention of him in our horses to follow or our weekend review after that Ranvet Guineas. So the $9 about him, I think, is more than fair. But yeah, pretty keen Moonga, $2.70 with winner's bet in the Group 1 Rosehill Guineas. The third Group 1 on the card is the George Ryder Stakes, only a relatively small field here. And I had this, pretty well down to 3 horses. I thought this lied between Avilius, Funstar and Juniper. I've lent the way of Funstar. I expected her to go well last start. She did. She was narrowly beaten. It was a brave run in 4th. With her, I think the wetter the better in her case. And third up from a spell here, I just think she finds a weak enough race without the likes of Very Elegant and co. I think she finds a weak enough race to win. Avilius, he was absolutely super in that race first up from a spell. Really kind of showed a glimpse of what he used to be as a horse a couple of seasons back now. But he's certainly no hack on the heavy ground. I think he's also undefeated on heavy ground, 2 from 2 if I remember correctly. But what I will say is that was back when he was absolutely flying that season a few years ago. Whether he's just in that same kind of form, I don't know, but it was an encouraging first up run. I thought the knockout chance in the race was Juniper at $17. First up here, Loves the wet ground, and I think it's a thin enough race where he can be competitive. You've got something on Avilius in the futures market, I think.
Yeah, when I heard that Avilius was going to the George Ryder, instead of the Ranvet, I kind of had something on him at double figures, just knowing that he'd love the wet. So in a good position there. But I think, yeah, Fun Star is the other one that I'd definitely be having something on, just looking to kind of play both of them potentially.
Okay, Group 1 Golden Slipper, of course, the feature race of the day. This one's a little bit more open. Who knows what we could see happen here. Profiteer, Stay Inside. How do we separate these two? I've lent towards Profiteer. My main reason is that he's going to be out in front. It's going to be a very wet track. And I just think in years gone past, we've seen these horses that are able to put themselves up on speed can often prove very tough to run down in this race. He was a month between runs heading into the Todman Stakes. I thought it was a pretty brave effort. He over-raced. He does, I can see, need to settle a little bit better if he's going to win this. But I thought with a little bit of that freshness off, having that run under his belt, I think he could bounce back here. And we often see it's no concern if a horse is beaten in the Todman Stakes. They often can come out in the Group 1 Golden Slipper and make up for that defeat. So I've got him on top. Granted, the wet track is a huge query. We haven't seen him on anything worse than a soft 5 at the moment, but was happy to have him on top. I thought the $6 for Stay Inside was also a very good price. And I was surprised that these two weren't closer together and taking up more of the market. So at $3.90 and $6, you could definitely do worse than play both of those. And I thought the value in the race was was Home Affairs, with James McDonald jumping off Stay Inside to jump on Home Affairs for Chris Waller. Just like his progression this campaign, he's got better with each run. I thought his effort last start was good, and expect from the Waller camp they'll have him peaking for this day. How did you see the Golden Slipper?
Yeah, very tough as usual. I had Stay Inside as the value in the race. Like I said, $6. I think that's a good price. He was quite badly held up in the Todman, and he's got that soft 7, like about a 4-length win as well. So, you know, he'll handle wet ground to at least some degree. And I thought he was probably the one that I'd be looking to play, but not particularly confident.
And the absolute certainty of that race is that we won't see Stay Inside back last from barrier 3 on this occasion. I guarantee you that. The final Group 1 on the card is the Group 1, the Galaxy, and I'm pretty keen on one here. I thought Hortbury on Her was a terrific bet at $5.50. Probably play that each way. First up from a spell, we saw how good she was, returning from a long spell where she was injured. Last time around, she's got form behind Classic Legend in the Everest, and I thought this was actually a relatively weak edition of the Galaxy. Well, it's not typically the strongest Group 1 sprint, but yeah, I thought if she turned up at her best, despite the really awkward draw, I thought she could be very hard to beat here. And $5.50 was a more than acceptable price. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought she was a good price as well. Loves wet ground. Like, she ran second to Guitra at the end of last prep on a heavy track. Like you said, the draw is a little bit sticky, but there's enough speed there that they'll probably end up kind of stringing along a little bit. So she should be able to find a bit of cover. If that's the case, like you said, first up record's really good. I thought she was probably the horse to beat, really.
Yep, and I'll just quickly touch on the last race, race number 9, because outside of Moonga, I thought this was probably the best betting race of the day, and I'm pretty keen to get stuck in here. It's over 2,000 metres, and there's 2 horses that you'll find in our follow files on RacingBet in the last couple of weeks, those being She's Ideal and Polly Gray. I'll be pretty keen to back both of these. I've said all preparation, She's Ideal, third up at 2,000 metres was the time to get on. I haven't backed her first or second up, but I have said both times she's running the review to get on third up over 2,000. She gets that today. I think it's the right time to get on. $3.60 is a reasonable price. And I was really keen on Polly Gray at $6. I think that's a terrific price. She was awesome first up from a spell. She was probably one of the runs of the day on that occasion. But I did say out of that race, she needs to strike a wet track before you back her again. She didn't get that last start. She found a firm track, and I thought her run was still very good. She sat wide throughout on a firm track and was still only, beaten a couple of lengths back into 5th. She gets a heavy track here, which is going to suit her down to the ground. I think she's got 3 wins from 6 starts on heavy ground. And third up at 2,000 metres. Yeah, I thought that was a really good bet at $6. So outside of Moonga in the Guineas, yeah, I thought race number 9 at Rosehill was probably the best betting race, and happy to play those 2 confidently. And hopefully we can get some cash to round out what looks a pretty tricky day, provided the races go ahead. Trent, any other thoughts before we sign off for this week?
No, I think that just about wraps us up for Golden Slipper Day. Good luck, punters, and we'll see you next week.
Yep, and thanks to WinnersBet for sponsoring this week's show. Make sure you jump online, www.winnersbet.com.au. As I said, Australian owned and operated. Make sure you check them out ahead of a huge day, Saturday, March 20th, Group 1 Golden Slipper Day. You'll find all our content for 4 different states on racingbet.com.au. And Trent will be back to do it all again next week.